Mephisto is absolutely back. The new Diablo 4 DLC, Vessel of Hatred, was just announced at BlizzCon 2023. We don't have any dates so far, and the trailer was quite vague, but there's a lot of information that was said during the panel, on top of what the leaks said last week, which might be true or not be true. We'll uncover that together. And also, if you follow my channel, you know that I'm mad about the lore of Diablo. So I know a lot about what happens after Diablo 4 because it was all in the physical book of Lorath that released right after the release of Diablo 4. So I want to go through that all with you today. Let's get started. So what has officially been revealed at BlizzCon? Well, the main antagonist of the Vessel of Hatred DLC is Mephisto, of course. The DLC takes place in a region called Nahantu. Now, we've never heard about Nahantu before in Diablo lore, but I'm 99% sure it's the new name for the jungly regions around Kurast. Kurast is a town we've already been to in Diablo 2. It fell to the corruption of Mephisto and then was kind of left to rot in the jungle. So what did the leaks say? And let's try to uncover what was true and what wasn't true. The leaks mentioned that there would be a new class called the Spiritborn, which wields a glaive while having a nature-based attacks and abilities. Now, Blizzard confirmed that the new class that's coming out with this DLC was unlike any other classes ever released to this day. So this information does track. Of course, I know a lot of people were expecting Paladin or Crusaders, even hoping, but I don't think this is what they're going to do. So I think this information tracks, but I don't think the name is correct. I don't think Spiritborn is the final name. I think it's a placeholder. It seems a bit too on the nose. Now, because of how Kurast is in this very jungly region, it would make a lot of sense to have a nature-based class, a bit like the Witch Doctor that we had in Diablo 3. The leaks also mentioned that the DLC would take place in or around Kurast. Now, this completely makes sense, as the trailer revealed a jungle with Inca architecture, which is also what we know Kurast to look like from Diablo 2. The leak mentioned that there was also going to be the return of a feature that was in Diablo 3, the mercenary system. Do you remember you were able to recruit a mercenary to come along in your adventures, and you could also manage their inventory and their skills and what they were wearing, that kind of stuff? We don't have any confirmation from Blizzard if this is actually going to be a thing, but I think it might be likely. A mercenary system would be fantastic, but it hasn't been confirmed by Blizzard yet. On top of all this, the leaks mentioned that raids will be a thing. You'd be able to join a raid with a group of your friends or randoms, and the first raid was supposed to be the Tomb of Akarat, which will feature 5 wings that player will be able to fight through to reach the final boss, which might be Neyrelle when you think about it. Is this information true? We don't know, but it would make a lot of sense if you follow what Blizzard has been trying to do with the world bosses and stuff like this. Raids already exist in games such as Lost Ark, so it would track. That's everything that the leaks got right or potentially right. Now, what did the leaks get wrong? Well, simply the name. The leaks mentioned that the new DLC was called the Lord of Hatred, which is also very much on the nose. But no, it's called the Vessel of Hatred, which makes a lot more sense when you look at the lore, which we're going to get into now. One last thing about this name being wrong, it also means that we can't completely trust what the leaks said. Any information that is wrong just means that the leaks are probably hearsay or passed down through a lot of people until they finally get to us. Now let's talk about the lore, because I think I know something that nobody else has mentioned in any other videos yet. Let's start at the beginning. There is an official lore book released by Blizzard called the Book of Lorath. It covers what happens immediately after the ending of the Diablo 4 campaign. If you remember correctly, at the end of the Diablo 4 campaign, you defeat Lilith, but Neyrelle imprisoned Mephisto in a soulstone and left us to find a way to destroy the soulstone somehow, or to vanquish evil. In the ending cinematic, you can see Neyrelle taking a boat across the sea, and we don't really know where she's taken that boat from or to in the cinematic, but the Book of Lorath confirmed that this boat was taken from the port city of, you guessed it, Kurast. After her passage there, the city was in upheaval and in total chaos once more. Neyrelle left a letter at the port for Lorath, and this is what it says, quote, "I should not have come to Kurast. This was Mephisto's domain. Almost as soon as I arrived, his voice grew louder, more insistent. The Lord of Hatred laughs at humanity's insignificance. He mocks my weakness. He shows me the ruin that is to come. Sanctuary devoured. I fear the raging storm inside my head will drive me mad. Before coming here, I thought I was learning to ignore his voice and see through his visions, but I should have anticipated this. I was a fool. No doubt you would have tried to warn me if you were here. Perhaps I would have listened. I am leaving Kurast as quickly as I can, and I will not repeat this mistake. I must seek some way of silencing the Lord of Hatred. I must find a way to keep my sanity. But don't worry, old man. I am not lost yet. So, lore-wise, Mephisto already passed through Kurast back in Diablo 2 and corrupted the city into violence and chaos, and it was then kind of forgotten in the middle of the jungle. So how does this connect to the Vessel of Hatred DLC? Well, let's have a look at the trailer in more detail. There are two voices heard during the trailer, Neyrelle and Mephisto. If we turn on the subtitles, we get a bit more information about what's being said. Neyrelle, as we can hear her, is reciting a prayer to Akarat of the Zakarum faith. In the Book of Lorath, it's clear that Neyrelle is suffering from the corruption of Mephisto, so she is probably praying for help. Then we hear Mephisto, who's speaking to us, but also might be speaking to Lorath Nar. He says, quote, "We have each played a part in what has happened here. You abdicated your choice to this child, and with every step she takes, I grow stronger. There will be no salvation in the light." So with that in mind, the name of the DLC, Vessel of Hatred, makes a lot of sense. Neyrelle is the vessel for the Lord of Hate, Mephisto. So now I want to share my predictions with you. I have studied the lore of Diablo more than your average player, I would guess. So I think I have an inkling of what direction this story might take. Let's start with the fact that the Book of Lorath, the physical lore book that I purchased and read through, goes way further than Kurast. Kurast only happens like midway through the book. If you read the whole book, you'll find out that Neyrelle goes across the sea, visits many towns, and ends up in the north with the monks. What does that mean? Could it possibly be teasing at a DLC 2, I guess? Or maybe Blizzard is just going to retcon half the book? Potentially, because in the book, Neyrelle is only in Kurast for like a minute and a half, you know? So I think Neyrelle is going to fall to the corruption of Mephisto. There's no way around it. He's too powerful. She will be the end game boss, or a version of her anyway. And phase 2 of that boss will probably be an explosion from the body of Neyrelle that Mephisto comes through, and then you get to actually fight Mephisto. I don't think Neyrelle survives this. The new class that we've talked about earlier on will be based on Mayan, Cambodian, and Inca culture. This makes complete sense because that is what the culture of Kurast is based on. And I believe that Kurast will be the capital city of this new region called Nahantu. So all in all, this DLC will have us going south, fighting through the jungle. We'll have new monsters to kill. There'll be a new class to go through. There'll be a new quest line to go through. What I'm not sure about at this instant is, where does this quest line end? Because as I mentioned, the Book of Lorath goes way further. So it is possible, and I hope they don't do this, but it is possible that this DLC is only an episode of like 3 DLC setting, where Neyrelle ends up in the north of Sanctuary, completely at the north, in the same way the Book of Lorath explains that she does. Potentially, the story could be us going to Kurast, piecing together what happened after Neyrelle passed here, finding out that she took a boat, because the cinematic shows her on a boat, but we don't know she was in a boat. And what happens next? Because this new region is supposed to be around Kurast. If she leaves and she goes across the sea, are we supposed to follow her? Is that really going to be in the DLC? I don't think so. I really hope anyway that they don't do that. I hope we get a conclusion to the Neyrelle and Mephisto story. The other thing that they could do, which is worse in every way, is potentially, as I said, you just go down south, you realize that she's on a boat, but you have to stay in Kurast. You have to figure out what's going on. There's all the corruption that Mephisto has left behind. You need to fight through that. Oh no, there's a raid based on the corruption that Mephisto has left in Kurast. And we're left on a cliffhanger, finding out that she's crossed the sea. And we're like, oh, well, I guess we'll find that out next time. DLC number 2. Anyway, I'm waffling now. One last thing. Why did they reveal this DLC so early, considering the DLC is only releasing winter 2024, end of the year 2024? Well, I think it's very similar to what Bethesda did with the Elder Scrolls 6. I don't know if you remember, but when they announced Elder Scrolls 6, it was like 5-7 years away from the game being released. Now, why did they do that? It's because the community kept asking about it non-stop. And I believe we've done kind of the same thing here. So Blizzard knew that we were expecting something big from BlizzCon, but because they were so far from actually delivering the DLC, they had to make a strategic decision. Either they don't show anything, the Diablo community is disappointed, or they show something and maybe it's a bit early. I think that makes sense. I do believe they did the right thing. I don't mind waiting a year for a good DLC. Let's just hope that it's great. In the meantime, I'm having a good time with Season 2, and I'm looking forward to Season 3. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and listening to me ramble about this new DLC. I'm very excited for it. I'm having a great time with Season 2. I'll be releasing a full review of Season 2 soon. It just takes a lot of time to write that script. Are you excited for the DLC? Let me know in the comments. I want to talk about it. I'm very excited. Anyway, thank you again, and we'll see you in the next one.